Jesus Freak here. I've mentioned in other videos that there are certain verses in the Bible that Christianity-based cults tend to mess with in order to promote their false doctrines. The most common, of course, is a few verses in John 1. Specifically, John 1:1 through 3. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Leading on to verse 14. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And another passage that causes problems with heterodox believers, as again I've mentioned, is Hebrews 1:5-8. For unto which of the angels said he at any time, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee? And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bringeth the first begotten into the world, he saith, And let all the angels of God worship him. And of the angels he saith, Who maketh his angels spirits, and his ministers a flame of fire. But unto the Son he saith, Thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of thy kingdom. And I believe there's a verse in Colossians. This is from Colossians 1. This is a huge run-on sentence, and only part of it's relevant. For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of his will, and all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you might walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might, according to his glorious power, unto all patience and long-suffering with joyfulness, giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created that are in earth, and that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And later on in Colossians in 2:9 we have, "For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily." Which is right out saying, oh, everything that makes God God, or Godhead, Godhood, Godness, he possesses physically. And if you have everything that makes God God, then aren't you inherently God? Heterodox believers have to come up with all sorts of dodges and detours and alternative interpretations to explain why their belief is right, and the plain, simple, clear text of Scripture is somehow not right on its own. Occam's razor holds. The best explanation is the one that requires the fewest assumptions or externalities. Or put simpler, the simplest explanation is usually the best. The simplest explanation is Jesus is God, every bit as much as Jehovah is God. Of course, me being a traditional Trinitarian, there's going to be some that say, "Oh, you're a tritheist." Not a tritheist. There are three persons who are all equally God. There's only one God. And that's a mystery that maybe we're not meant to understand right now. Doesn't make it any less true. Another complaint I got recently was, "Oh, but the Israelites worshipped the king." In Revelation, it's made clear. In Revelation 22:9, that only God is worthy of worship. But then again, some might say, well, worship can mean this and that, and I'd have to do a little more research into the First Chronicles thing, because it's clear that they wouldn't worship David the way they'd worship God. And since obviously Scripture can't contradict itself, that someone's misunderstanding something. Jesus freak out.